Okay, we are near 200, so we're going to just sort of dribble the vinegar in. And same as the last video, I'll just turn off the heat and run it through a strainer. Okay, I don't want to drag this out, so as I did on the last video where I made mozzarella and ricotta, I just poured it through a bandana. I'm going to wait for it to drain more of the whey is out, and then I'll just tie it up and wait till it's done dripping, and that'll get salted and put in the refrigerator for our next batch of calzones. Alright, while my ricotta is finishing off draining there, I'm opening my cottage cheese. It looks quite a bit like farmer's cheese does when it first comes out. But I will get a fork and just start to break it back up again. Now at this point, depending on how you like your cottage cheese, all my pieces, when I break it open, you can see they shrunk small. Now as a whole lump I could break it in bigger parts, but if you want to do creamed cottage cheese, you would just add fresh cream from the top of the milk, and as much as you wanted, salt and pepper. So basically at this stage it's up to you whether you want to leave them as dry curds or creamy curds. So this is just where you sprinkle your salt in, pepper. So that's it from 2 gallons of milk. See, and I get a nice bowl here of cottage cheese, and my ricotta back here is almost done. You can see it. So once all the moisture's out of there, I'll put that in a container and tuck it away into the refrigerator. So thanks for joining me. As you can see, it's a bit time consuming, but still very easy to make your own homemade cottage cheese. Don't throw away the whey. Make sure you use that for your next batch of ricotta. I've put my whey back on the stove. I'm bringing the heat up again until I get it to a boiling point where I will turn it down. I will just let it continue to simmer, and what I'm doing now is basically trying to evaporate the water out of the whey so that what I have left is a thick substance, which would be condensed whey. As you can see, I've got a good rolling boil and the steam's coming off, and that's what I'm wanting to do. I'm boiling this down, causing an evaporation of the water in it until all that's left is concentrated protein. It's been an hour, and you can see that it's evaporated quite a bit now, and all I do is every once in a while I come over and give it a stir. So far nothing's ever stuck to the bottom, so we're just going to continue doing this boiling until I have a thick kind of pasty jelly-like whey. Here we are about 30 minutes later. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. I'll try to zoom. But it's beginning to be more colored like custard, and I'm not sure if the camera's picking it up, but it's like there's silt in the water. So we're almost done boiling off this water, and once it's reduced, we'll have the thick substance we're looking for. Now it has come down to where it's starting to get really thick. You can see it's all bubbling. So that's what I want it to do, and I'm going to add a bit of salt. And my next step will be, once I get a little thicker than this, is I'm going to put it on some sheets for my dehydrator, sort of like making fruit leather, and I will spread it onto the sheets and dry it out. I'm arriving at the place where there's basically, I'm running out of water, and you see caramelization taking place along the edges. So that's what we're looking for. We're trying to get it. You can see when I move the spoon here, it's becoming very thick. The color is changing to a dark, rich, caramel-like color. So I'm almost at that place where I'm going to take it from the pot, because I don't want it to burn in here. And we'll allow the dehydrator to remove the rest of the liquid. At this stage is where you continue to stir, because it's going to want to stick as it begins to run out of the water. Now understand, you could do this outside over a campfire, you could do it on your wood stove, you can do it in your cabin, your yurt, wherever you are. You just, as long as you have a heat source you can maintain at a steady heat, you can do this. Now you may ask why all the fuss to go through with it. It is a long process, but for someone like me who has either their wood stove going all day long in winter, or I'm home homeschooling so I can just continue to allow these things to simmer, well then it's kind of worth it. And what am I going to do with this? Now this is not the whey protein isolate that you buy at health stores and health places for people who work out the protein shakes. This is just simple, super highly concentrated protein. And what you would do is you would take the powder and you would take it with you on the trail. It has no weight to it. It takes virtually no space in your pack, and you can add it to any of your soups and stews along the trail, or just simply bring water to a boil over your campfire and add some powder, and you've got yourself some good healthy protein. So for my daily use, I just use my fresh whey for my baking with. But something like this you would make to take along the trail, or just have in your cupboard for daily use if that's what you prefer to do. I think we're getting to that stage where I'm going to just turn off the heat, let it sit for a bit, and then transfer it to my dehydrator. I let it sit for a while and it immediately began to dry out right up in my pan, so what I'm going to do is try to remove it before it all sticks to the pan, because you can see here it's dried out already on the edge of the pan. So I'm going to pull that, put it onto my sheet here, and pop it in the dehydrator. Well, I allowed myself to run and do a few things before I poured it onto my tray, and you can see here what happens in just a few minutes. Had I poured it on, it would have just formed a big puddle and dried that way, but letting it sit for 3 minutes caused it to already begin the drying stage, so it won't take long at all in the dehydrator. It's sort of thick here, so I'll run the dehydrator until the whole thing can break up and crumble so I can pulverize it. Okay, I have popped it in the middle of my dehydrator here. I'm having it, just going to run it, check it periodically until it's dry. I'm using my Excalibur. Amazing dehydrator. If you're going to invest in one, invest in this one. And people may think, well, why run just one tray? Well, according to the manual, it takes 4 to 5 cents of electricity per hour, so it really isn't going to bother me too much to run it for 2 or 3 hours. So it cost me 15 cents to dry it. Now obviously if you can't dry it in a dehydrator, you can also pour it out onto a tray, take it out in the sun, put something over to keep bugs away, and dry it that way. All you're doing is getting it to the brittle stage. It's been about half an hour. To speed up the drying, what I've done is just broken it up by hand into smaller bits so that it'll dry faster for me. I've left the whey protein in the dehydrator until it was dry. It took about 3 hours. I did it on the highest setting. And you can see over here I'm grinding it up with mortar and pestle. That takes a little longer and you don't get quite as fine a powder. And over here, I'll show you, this is doing it in the coffee grinder. Doing the mortar and pestle is rather simple. So you put your dried whey protein in. This is a handy little gadget. You sort of turn, twist, grind, and then when you get it up on the edge and you sort of rub it along the edge, that's where you make the powder to go finer. So you can see you can do this primitive or with a coffee grinder. I boiled up some water and just put in like a level one of these, stir it in, and you can see it looks just like the way we started out with. Well, it's hard to believe that a pan, I poured water in there. I didn't quite pour as much as I had whey in there, but a pan that holds 5 quarts, a gallon and a half, would reduce down to this little pint jar. It holds about 1.5 cups of the powdered whey. So you can see, if you're curious how you would remix it, well, if you used all of it, you could make a pot that big of pure whey, but you wouldn't want to do that if you were adding it to soups or stews. You would just simply add a couple spoonfuls for the protein. This is Linda with BushcraftOnFire, thanking you for joining me, and just thanking you for coming in our kitchen and seeing all the different things you can do with milk, with whey. So I hope some of you could put these ideas to use, either now or for down the road. So remember, not everything has to be consumed right away. You can prepare things to take on the trail with you. I'll see you soon on another video. Thank you so much for all your support.